memorize. You need to memorize all of what I'm going to give you, okay? So, you know that sine of theta is equal to 1 over cosecant of theta. Therefore, cosecant of theta is 1 over sine of theta. They are reciprocal functions. Do you guys agree? Okay? Cosine of theta is equal to 1 over secant of theta. And secant of theta is equal to 1 over cosine of theta. Now you already know those, and you know this one. Tangent of theta is 1 over cotangent of theta, and cotangent of theta is 1 over tan of theta. These are all review. Do you guys agree? From this point on, everything is new, right? So here's a new one. Tangent of theta is equal to sine of theta over cosine of theta. If you had to figure this out on your own really, really quickly, here's a really quick explanation. Do you agree that tangent's y over x? Sine is y over r, and cosine is x over r. When you multiply the top here by the reciprocal, do you guys agree you get y over x?
So your r's would cancel.
Your r's cancel, and so you get y over x, right? Therefore, if tangent is that, cotangent is just the reciprocal. Are we in agreement? Okay, so you know that. Notice every single function can either be put in terms of sine, cosine, or both. So every single trig function can be put in sine, cosine, or both, right? The next one. Now, if you had a right triangle, okay, rotate in the first quadrant, some angle randomly, right? And it can be in either quadrant. But do you agree by Pythagorean theorem, x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared? I'm going to write it 3 times across the top. And the reason I'm doing this is you need to have these memorized because they even pop up in calculus. These identities, they don't go away if you guys are going to ever go on a math. So this is a way to derive it really quickly if you have a mental breakdown, forget everything, okay? So, on the first one, you're going to divide everything through by r squared, right? So remember, x over r is cosine, so this would be saying cosine squared theta plus y over r is sine, so this is sine squared theta is equal to what? Do you remember these?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is all you have to memorize, but recall from that you can actually get 2 other equations, can't you?
So that's a Pythagorean theorem.
That's Pythagorean theorem, and then dividing by those to get the ratios of the trig functions. Okay? So, for instance, you could say cosine squared is equal to 1 minus sine squared.
Oh.
Okay? If you memorize the first one, you can get the other one. Or you could say sine squared is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. This only applies to squares. It does not apply to any other, it doesn't apply to 4th degree, it doesn't apply to 1st degree, it doesn't apply to 3rd degree. It's squares. You guys got me? Yeah.
So this is on the next test, not this one.
Right, correct. Okay. Are you guys with me so far? All right. Next. So just like I divided by r, I'm going to take this one and divide everything through by x. And when I do that, I get 1 plus y over x is tangent, and r over x is secant squared. Are you remembering this from last year now? Remember seeing these? Okay. So now, take those equations. This is what you have to memorize. Remember, from this, you could get, for instance, that 1 is equal to secant squared minus tan squared. Or you could get that tan squared is equal to secant squared minus 1. fourth
My
quarter.
last quarter.
Fourth quarter?
This is when everything was virtual and I told you guys you had to, but I didn't make you memorize these last year. I said you could have I think I gave you a card with all
I
the
think you
formulas.
wanted us to memorize them, but then you changed it on us.
Right, so I said you didn't have to memorize it. This year you have to memorize.
It's not that hard to memorize them though, cause like you just know, like just do the homework.
If you do the homework, you'll get them down.
Yeah.
Yes. If you don't do the homework, you're gonna be toast. All right. So you divide by R, you divide by X, now you divide by Y. And we do that, I'm just gonna move down here because I'm losing. You would get cotangent squared plus 1 is equal to cosecant squared. Do we agree? So by the same logic, you would get 1 is equal to cosecant squared minus cotangent squared. And cotangent squared is equal to cosecant squared theta minus 1. Did I do those all right? All right, you guys good?
Yeah.
Okay, now. Strategies. I still haven't given you a problem. I'm just giving you stuff. So strategies. Pick most difficult side to work with. Okay, pick the most difficult side to work with. Typically, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make trig substitutions. So when I say this, it might mean that you see an identity with a square. Whenever I see squares, I start thinking of those last 3 things I gave you. That's what I think of when I see the squares. If I don't see something like that, I might change everything to sines and cosines. Everything you can be put in sines and cosines. Wow, we just lost them too early. There's gone. Everything just shut off.
Earlier it said you lost connection due to internet, poor internet connection.
It just said up there.
A little bit.
Because
Down
the screen is totally black. I lost everything.
They're still right there.
the top
Yeah,
right.
it's still there.
Are you guys still there? Can you see me, Wyatt? Wyatt can't.
That's why she always asks.
Wyatt.
That's really weird. Why could?
You bumped his head up.
Maybe.
I think that's just the
Carol Johnson.
No, my computer's just.
Filter.
My-
Is that clock wrong?
Class. It's pre-calculus.
What?
Is that clock wrong?
No.
Carol Johnson.
That's really weird. My whole computer went down. Warning, battery is critically low. Oh. That could
You
be
know what
it.
I just realized? If I just connected to the Zoom call every period, it would freeze up easy. And like, when you look at the road here, there was no internet connection whatsoever.
I don't understand why the battery's.
It only take like 5 people doing it here. And like, correct the. I know, imagine if you had
Okay,
three
I'm just gonna
students
keep
in
going.
each
All right, make trig substitutions. Simplify. Simplify might mean find at least common denominator. Factor. Add or subtract. Okay, anything you can do is what you're doing. Then, what is the math? Have you ever heard of do loops in computer programming? So sometimes you'll have to go back and repeat this. You're gonna have to make trig substitutions and come back and do that again, okay? And if all else, fails, multiply both numerator and denominator by same trig expression. battery is critically low. If I plug it in. What? Okay, can I keep going? What?
This is after trig. It's lost.
Uh,
Don't worry, I'll get it.
if all scales multiplied by, can you be quiet? Which one?
The last word.
Trig, by same trig expression, sorry. Trig expression. Okay, you ready for examples? Here we go. Alright, can I go? You guys got it? Alright. So, let's do cosine squared x. Can I just, okay. I'm sorry guys, it's just very, I don't want to bog my battery because I have it all plugged in.
Oh, battery's going on.
It says battery's dead, but I don't. Sometimes you just have to switch the plug. Like on mine at home, I just have to switch the plug after a while because that certain plug overheats. There you go. Your wire wasn't plugged in all the way here.
I wasn't plugged in. Okay. See if I can get it going. Alright, so now, if you look at, both sides look exactly the same. Do you guys agree? Now I'm trying to put one of these sides in terms of the other. I'm going to choose the left side because I know I can replace cosine squared. I can put in terms of sine squared. If you go back to your identities that you have memorized, that you will have memorized, that is 1 minus sine squared. Now you can drop the angles. I'm fine with you dropping angles at this point. You don't have to worry about it. You guys got me? So I just made a trig substitution. That was my first step. Now you simplify. Well, I can simplify because I can combine those together, and I get 1 minus 2 sine squared equals 1 minus 2 sine squared. Does that make sense? Is that a person trying to contact me? Please. It's one of the students in the class. Okay, did we agree?
Yes.
All right, let's do another. That was an easy one. They're never that easy, right, guys? All right, so. Oh, there's like Jekyll and Hyde. So hang on. All right, this is one's out of space. All right, here we go. Okay, so which side would you choose? Left side, okay. Now, you can't make any trig substitution right now, unfortunately, okay? But you can multiply it out. So if you FOILed it out, you would get 1 plus cosine minus cosine minus cosine squared. Am I making sense? The cosines cancel, and now you have 1 minus cosine squared. And so that equals sine squared. You guys, you have to take it down to this step. You cannot stop right here and think that I understand that you know it equals that. Does that make sense? You have to go down and say it equals sine squared equals sine squared. So I realize that you realize that fact. Don't stop halfway, right? So, all right, let's do another one.
And then you just that's your answer.
That's your answer is the process.
Right.
Your
okay.
answer is the
Yes,
process,
yes.
okay?
Ms. Johnson?
Yeah.
Every once in a while, and I know you wanted one side to remain the same, but sometimes I would work with both sides. Do you not want us to work with both
No,
sides?
you're not supposed to. This is a proof, so you can't work with both sides. So I'll answer that question right now. Okay, follow the logic, all right? So this is what kind of James you did, right here. So you would move down this side to a point, and you can figure out where to go from that point. You guys following my logic right now? You move down, you get to a point, you're stuck. You guys got me? So what he did was he would go down to here, and then he would find out they're equal. You guys got this? Think about logically. The next step here would have been the previous step here. The next step here would have been the previous step until you move it back. And then you just erase that, but I didn't see that you did that. Does that make sense?
But don't you wanna see our work?
I do,
Well, no, but she only wants us.
but you can only work with one side.
So basically, yeah, my issue with that was I would always work with both sides, and so it left me with less steps.
Steps.
But in the long run,
If you're doing a
You
proof, you cannot work with anything on the both sides. You have to prove one side is equal to the other.
okay, so one student would do
Right.
that where it changed
Right.
both sides, but then he would erase and put the original red. Okay,
Okay, so
that would make sense.
Control Alt Delete, right? That's how you restart computer.
Chloe's trying to say something.
Chloe, I can't hear you. My computer is out.
I have so many classes.
I don't think
Can she
she
type
can
it?
hear.
Type in the chat,
Type
Type
your
it in the
question.
chat.
Or text her.
or just
Isn't
text
it
one of us,
Isn't it?
or just snap one of us, either way.
See if I got some
I
idea.
have my phone on me.
And put it on Google Classroom. Going to. Okay, before you leave today, Sienna, we're gonna have to share your.
I can upload it to YouTube and then put it in as a class comment, the link.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. All right. So you guys ready? Can I keep going?
Yeah.
What side would you choose? What side would you choose?
Which is the most complex side, right?
Right. So which one looks more complex to you?
The left.
I would say the left, because with the left you could actually get common denominators and things like that. Okay.
Yeah,
Now
it's
remember, there's-
addition instead of multiplication.
There's no squared, so I can't use that thing. So the only thing I do is do cosines and sines, correct? So you can say cotangent is cosine over sine, and tangent is sine over cosine. You with me? Now, at this point, you look at that, well, the only thing I could do with that thing would be to get a common denominator. And the common denominator would be sine times cosine. So in the first term, you would multiply by cosine and get cosine squared. And the second one, you multiply by sine and you get plus sine squared. Am I making sense? So I've done a trig substitute, I made a trig substitution, I simplified, and now I go back, this is a do loop. I make a trig substitution. Do you see anything where you can make a trig substitution?
Substitute the top for one.
Make the top one. Now, I have to go back there, you're trying to get to terms of cosecant and secant, right? When you realize that this is 1 over sine
Oh, but what?
times 1 over cosine.
But you just worked on the other side, right?
Well, no, I could go down vertically, I'm just not going down vertically.
Wait, why is it
I'm just
equal
running
to-
out of space, so.
Why is it equal to 1? Sorry. I'm like,
Yeah, because that's that first identity I gave you, sine squared plus cosine squared is 1.
oh,
That's why you have to recognize those. Anytime I see squares,
right.
I have to think of those identities, okay?
You're supposed to memorize everything like that?
Yes. So 1 over sine is cosecant, and 1 over cosine is secant. And I got my answer. Does that make sense? Yes or no? You guys got it? All right. Last problem. Okay, you ready? So you choose a side. In either case, it is neither's one harder than the other. Do you guys agree? Second thing is, I look to make a trig substitution. There's nothing I could substitute in trigonometry wise. I then look to see if there's any identities or anything like, or I could simplify it. There's nothing I can do. So this is going to case 4. You don't do this very lightly. You want it, this is like the last resort, okay? So I'm trying to make, I'm going to choose the left-hand side, and I'm going to make it look like the right-hand side, okay? So, I'm going, okay, I have to multiply by something. I have to get a 1 minus cosine in the top. That is not that easy to get on the top. So what I'm going to choose to multiply by is 1 minus cosine over 1 minus cosine. Now, what am I multiplying by 1? I'm multiplying by 1. Do you guys agree? So I have not changed the value. I've just changed the appearance. So this would be sine times 1 minus cosine. And in the denominator, if you FOILed that out, you would get 1 minus cosine squared. Are you agree? Talk to me, guys. Whoop. So now, do you see anything you can do?
You could FOIL the bottom of the sine square.
You could put that in sine square. That's a
Sorry,
good.
not FOIL.
Yeah, just substitute it. And make a trig substitution. Now, do you spot anything? You made a trig substitution. You try to simplify. Can you simplify?
You can just simplify.
Yeah,
Simplify.
simplify. Oh, and there you go.
And there you go.
Done.
You have 1 minus cosine all over sine. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's what you're doing tonight. You guys got it?